Good afternoon and welcome to the Tameside Reporter Sports Show. We're at Bowerfold this week, home of Stalybridge Celtic, who are gearing up for an FA Cup tie against Chorley this weekend. As well as reviewing and previewing all the local fixtures, we've got an interview with Curzon Ashton volunteer Roy Jackson, who celebrated his 25th year with the club last weekend. We'll start in the National League North, and Curzon Ashton, who've extended their unbeaten run to 4 games. Last weekend they beat FC United for the first time in the club's history with a 1-0 win at the Tameside Stadium thanks to Max Leonard's goal, and then on Monday night Ben Wharton scored to help Curzon draw 1-1 with Leamington. So good to see Curzon back on track after a tough period.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a difficult start for Curzon, hasn't it, the last couple of games. But I think there has been some positives. Certainly the former Joe Guest, I think he's been fantastic for him. He's been involved in quite a few goals, hasn't he? So there are positives, and like we say, the results are starting to show now.
And Mark, Curzon travelled to Stockport County in the FA Cup this weekend. Can they get revenge for that 3-0 defeat back in August?
I think, judging by recent form, they can do exactly that. I watched them both games this past weekend against FC United and then against Leamington on Monday. Played some fantastic football. Did take the foot off the gear a little bit in the second half against Leamington, but overall they played really well.
Well, before last weekend's game against FC United, Mark spoke to club volunteer Roy Jackson about his 25 years at the club.
So Roy, you're celebrating 25 years volunteering at the club today. How are you feeling about that?
Dead chuffed about it, really. You know, I mean, you think 25 years, it's a long time, but as far as I'm concerned, it's just gone by so quickly, and I've enjoyed it.
And obviously we're in your hut today. There's thousands of programmes in here. Tell us how that all came about. Have you always been a collector?
Well, I was a collector, yes, and that's how I started the shop in about '95, because I was on the board at Curzon and I decided to start a shop. But I had loads of programmes at home, you know, like United and England and all them, and I brought them in and started selling them, and all the money went into the club. So in '95, all my programmes went out my house. My wife was quite happy, and that's how the shop was started.
An indifferent start to the season, won some, lost some. What's your take on it?
I think what it is, we've got a few new players on, and we've lost some really good players, and for them players to react with the players that we've already got, it's taken its time yet. But when we come to play pro teams, it makes me wonder who is the pro team. You know, Curzon, because we have played absolutely brilliant, especially at Kidderminster on Tuesday. And we have got a couple of new great players in, like Howson, Steve Howson. I know all the other players are great, but he is the one that just makes it click again. Yeah.
So we'll move on to the evo-stik Premier Division now, where Stalybridge Celtic picked up their second win of the season last weekend in a 3-1 victory over playoff favourite Stalybridge, but then lost 1-0 here at Bowerfold to Buxton on Tuesday night. Stalybridge have announced the signing of former Man United striker John Kofi. He was signed for £1 million earlier on in his career. Perhaps a sign of intent from Bridge?
Yeah, it's quite interesting really, isn't it? I know he was chased a lot when he was sort of 14, 15. It's not quite worked out for him. He was part of that class with Paul Pogba and Ravel Morrison and all those fantastic young players that United had. But like we say, it's not quite worked out for him. He's here at Stalybridge now, and I think this is the perfect place sort of for him to recapture his form, should we say. I think he's a lot better than this level. I'm sure some Stalybridge fans might disagree with me there. But I think he could really sort of help Bridge this season, because they've been looking for a goal scorer. Goals have been a problem. It's been hard to come by, but I think he might relish it here.
And Mark, this reminds us of when Adam Morgan signed for Curzon last season, having obviously previously played for Liverpool. Do you think a drop in divisions will help revive Kofi's career? Yeah,
massively. I think it's going to be a big wake-up call for John Kofi as well. Really tough league, the evo-stik Premier Division. Maybe not what he's used to, although he was playing for Chorley last season. Strangely enough, Celtic do play Chorley this weekend, but like Lee said then, hopefully it can rejuvenate his career.
And he'll be looking to link up with Liam Dickinson, who's been on fire since returning a few weeks ago.
Yeah, he has. I thought it was quite strange to see Liam Dickinson not feature at the start of the season. He trained with the club over summer, but then didn't appear. I think he was released. Steve Burr called him back, and he's been an absolute inspiration since rejoining for the club.
Well, we'll move across the borough to Ashton United now, who travelled to Newcastle Benfield in this weekend's FA Cup tie. That comes off the back of a 2-1 win over Lancaster City on Tuesday, thanks to goals from Matt Chadwick and Jack Dyche. Newcastle sit 2 divisions below Ashton, so it's a perfect opportunity to progress to the next round.
Well, yeah, I'm sure Ashton United have been rubbing their hands together when they got this draw. It's a perfect opportunity, like you said, 2 divisions below them. And obviously the money that the FA Cup brings into the club, that could be fantastic. I mean, they're not going to get many better opportunities than playing a side sort of from that level.
Well, the winner of this weekend's ties received £5,000 in prize money. Mark, I know Jody Banning said he thinks Ashton can produce something special this season. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. They beat Lancaster City 2-1 on Tuesday night. Dave Carnell, the goalkeeper, is injured again. I think he's got a hamstring injury, so he'll be out for about 4 to 6 weeks. So even with all these injury problems, Ashton United are performing at the moment, and to go to a team, to Newcastle this weekend, 2 divisions below, I think they will pick up, well, not 3 points, but they'll progress to the next round.
So on to the evo-stik First Division North, where Droylsden sits second in the table after a fantastic start to the season. That continued with a 3-3 draw at Kendal Town last weekend before a 3-2 win at Brighouse in the week. So that's 8 games unbeaten now for Droylsden. Can they cause an upset at Lancaster in the FA Cup this weekend?
I think maybe, yeah. I mean, it's been an unbelievable start to the season for Dave Pacey's men, hasn't it? And obviously facing a team that, I know they got promoted last season from the same division, but Droylsden beat them 3-1 at their ground, so they've got form there. And like I say, I think Dave Pacey's assembled a great squad this season with a bit of continuity from last year. I think they could go pretty far in the FA Cup. I'm tipping them for a bit of a cup run. Well,
Mark, the Bloods go in obviously as underdogs into this game, but do you think they can cause an upset?
Yeah, like Lee said then, they actually beat them twice last season, both away and at home. You look at Lancaster City, they were unbeaten prior to Tuesday's loss at Ashton United, so they'll be no mugs, they'll put up a decent fight. But like you said then, Droylsden have started out really well, 8 games unbeaten. I think they'll progress to the next round.
We should mention their attacking lineup as well. That's going to give them confidence going into the game.
Yeah, you look at some of the players that have been recruited over summer. Liam Caddick, Dom Smith, Kieran Kilheeney, all on fire at the moment, all scoring goals, and at the end of the day, goals win your game. So yeah, I see it being a positive season for Droylsden.
Let's hope so. We'll talk about Hyde United now, who picked up 2 wins this week. Firstly, 2-0 at Skelmersdale United last weekend, and then in the week 3-0 at Colwyn Bay. That's 18 games now unbeaten for Hyde, obviously stretching back to last season. So they've certainly carried on that momentum into this season.
Yeah, it's a great time to be a Hyde fan, isn't it? I mean, me and Mark spoke to Darren just before the start of the season. I know he was quietly confident about their chances, but I think even he'll be pleased with this start. Obviously, they've kept some of the important players from last season, those that came through the academy, like Big Kamzok. I know he was on the score sheet last weekend, so I think it's been a fantastic start for him.
Well, Hyde travelled to Warrington Town in the FA Cup this weekend, who sit top of the evo-stik Premier Division. So how do you rate Hyde's chances, Mark?
I still rate them, even though Warrington are doing superbly at the moment. Top of the evo-stik Premier Division. Of course, they had a memorable FA Cup campaign 2 seasons ago. Beat Exeter City in the first round. Then he went up to Gateshead and lost. Made a load of money from that run. That went into the playing budget. They got promoted, and since then they've done really well. Last season was their first stint in the evo-stik Premier Division. I think they finished mid-table, so it looks like they've taken momentum from last season into this campaign.
So over to Mossley now, where the Lily Whites have got back on track after their FA Cup heartache. They beat Prescott Cables 2-0 thanks to a William Ellis brace last weekend before sharing the spoils in a 0-0 draw at Tadcaster on Tuesday. Mossley face a tough trip to Ramsbottom in the FA Cup this weekend. What can you tell us about the Rams?
Well, you said it tough there. It is going to be tough because they've started the season on fire pretty much. They've won 4, drawn 2. They're unbeaten in the league. I think they've scored 15 times and Jerome Wright's got 5 of them. He's a man on fire at the minute. So, unfortunately, I can only see a difficult weekend for the Lily Whites.
And Mark, Ramsbottom finished 14th last season. It's great to see him doing well, particularly after a difficult period for the club after some flash flooding a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it was a really difficult period for the club, and obviously Ramsbottom have been relegated quite a few times over the past few years, so to see them doing well this season after those floods is fantastic, although obviously this weekend we do want Mossley to win.
So last but not least, we'll talk about Glossop North End, who made it back-to-back victories last weekend. They beat Ossett Albion 2-1 thanks to goals from Courtney Meppen, Walter and Ben Deegan. Lee, good to see the Hillmen back to their best.
Yes, especially after they had a bit of disciplinary trouble, should we
say
say,
the
at the
least.
start of the season. Obviously, Paul Phillips being sent off and then replacement Russ Saunders also going off. Liam Brownhill also sent off. So I hope that Paul Phillips has sort of got a handle on the side now, because we know they can play fantastic football. I think it's just a case of keeping 11 players on the pitch.
So Glossop faced Kendall Town at Surrey Street this weekend, Mark. Difficult one considering Kendall's current form.
Yeah, Kendall are in fine form at the moment. Obviously drew 3-0 with Droylsden last weekend, but then on Tuesday they beat Trafford 4-2. Trafford are actually struggling this season, which I find quite surprising, but looking at Kendall Town, I think they're a strong side. I can see them challenging for the playoffs this season, so in my eyes it's going to be a draw.
Well, good luck to all our teams in FA Cup and League action over the weekend. Don't forget, for a more in-depth roundup of sport across the borough, you can tune into the Sporting Spotlight on Tameside Radio tonight at 6 o'clock with Mark and Martin.